There are many factors that take place in second language acquisition. We will first discuss what impacts learning a language, then how to learn a language, and finally how to succeed in language learning. Innate capacity impacts language learning. Unlike some types of learning, language learning and complex knowledge require some innate capacity and not only stimuli. You are born with the ability to learn a language. It is in your DNA. Age impacts language learning. Older people who are learning a second language usually feel like they are being judged or tested on the language before they are ready, which makes them less confident about speaking the language. Because of the mentality of learning a second language, younger people have an easier time learning a second language than others. Motivation impacts language learning. When learning a first language, babies automatically learn the language because if they don't, they will not fit in society or be able to get what they need. This is different for second language learners because often learning the language does not depend on survival. The more motivated to learn a language, the more quickly you will learn the language. Intelligence impacts language learning. Those that have a large variety of intellectual abilities are successful language learners. Language learning involves many different skills and abilities, and the more abilities and skills one has, the better they will be at language learning. Reading impacts language learning. Children expand their vocabulary dramatically during school years due to reading. Second language learners should read in the language that they are learning in order to pick up new vocabulary and see how it is used. First languages impact second language learning. The historical, typological, and genetic relationship of the two languages affect how a second language is learned. If the two languages are connected, the second language will be learned easier. Languages are learned through imitation. If you cannot hear a language or it is not spoken in front of you, you cannot learn the language. Languages are learned by repeating the sounds heard and applying meaning to the word. First languages are almost completely learned through imitation. Although second languages can be learned by other means, without imitation, the pronunciation of the language will not be correct. Second languages are learned in terms of the knowledge of the first language. This means that the learner applies what was acquired in their first language when learning the second language. The cognitive development and the social experiences that were established through the first language are applied when learning the second language. Languages are learned in a classroom. Languages can be learned from vocabulary, grammar, and reading lessons. By learning a little at a time, the students can build up their second language. Teachers are a useful tool when learning a language. Languages are learned from others. By having conversations with those that speak the language, learners can learn vocabulary as well as grammar. By talking to someone that speaks the language, learners are able to get immediate feedback. Languages are learned starting with the basics. Learners need to know 1,000 words and the basic structure of the language in order to participate in a conversation. By learning the basics, the learner is able to expand on their knowledge of the language. Languages are learned through different elements. Second languages are learned through vocabulary, word structures, sound systems, grammar, connecting sentences, and organizing information. Without these elements, languages will not be fully learned. Being immersed in a language can help the success of learning the language. First languages are usually learned because a child is immersed in the language. Second language learners that are immersed in language get to hear the language spoken often and hear it correctly from native speakers, which help them get a better understanding of the language. Learning grammatical rules one at a time can help the success of learning the language. It helps when you can process information and then readjust and restructure it until it all fits together and you can understand the language completely. Building up to more complex language structures can help the success of learning the language. Just like you must learn the alphabet before you can learn to read, language learners must learn some structures before others because you must learn the simple before you can learn the complex. Being exposed to material that use the language structures you already know can help the success of learning the language. By looking at material that the learner can understand most of, they are able to absorb the information and learn new vocabulary instead of struggling to comprehend the information. Correcting errors can help the success of learning the language. By correcting language errors when learning a language will help the learner to speak correctly before they form bad language habits. By not forming the bad habit, they will be able to move on to the next function more quickly. Content-based language teaching can help the success of learning the language. By having to learn the content of the classroom, students are more motivated to understand the language so they can learn the content of the class. Content-based learning also helps students to continue to develop more language skills. Learning reading and writing as well as speaking can help the success of learning the language. By learning the structure of the language and then practicing speaking it, you are able to advance in the language and fully learn the language. There are many other factors in second language acquisition, but those previously mentioned are some of the highlights.